My sister shoved me through a glass door in a fit of rage. I didn't even have time to raise my hands, just the flash of her face, twisted with something I still can't meme. The explosion of glass behind me and the awful realization that I was falling hard. The world went bright, then red, then nothing at all. The impact left me in a coma. But darkness isn't empty. It listens. It collects every secret people spill when they think you can't hear. And lying there, trapped in my own body, I learned something about my family that made the glass feel like the least of what shattered that day. I wish I could tell you the glass was the beginning, but it wasn't. My name is Ella, and in my house, silence was the only form of safety I ever knew. On the outside, we looked like any ordinary suburban family. 2 daughters framed in school photos lining the hallway, the soft hum of a dishwasher after dinner. But inside those walls, everything tilted toward my sister Natalie. She was the one our parents praised, protected, excused. I was the one who learned to step lightly, speak softly, and disappear when the air between us shifted. Natalie was 3 years older, tall from years of volleyball training, the kind of girl people noticed without effort. I grew up next to her, like a shadow, quieter, smaller, always bracing for the moment her smile cracked. And it cracked often. She didn't need a reason. The way I breathed too loudly could set her off. The way I answered a question in front of company could spark that cold flash in her eyes. Our mother used to soothe her with the same sentence every time. "You're still our special girl. Ella's just here." I learned early that here didn't mean belonging. It meant background noise. The first time I realized something was truly wrong, I was 12. I heard Natalie whisper to Mom in the kitchen, thinking I wasn't listening. "Why did you even have her?" Mom didn't gasp or correct her. She just sighed and stroked Natalie's hair as if she were the one wounded. Over the years, the house filled with moments like that. Moments I tucked away. Moments I told myself didn't matter. Except they did. They shaped every step I took, every decision, every apology I forced out even when I hadn't done anything wrong. Micah, the boy next door, was the only one who ever noticed. We grew up together, climbing backyard fences and trading homework notes. He saw the way I flinched when someone shut a door too hard. He saw the bruises I tried to hide under long sleeves. But even he never knew the whole truth. Not yet. As I grew older, the tension sharpened, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Natalie's temper, once unpredictable, began to feel dangerous. And the strangest part, everyone in that house sensed it. They just pretended not to. I used to think that if I stayed small enough, careful enough, quiet enough, things might remain under control. I didn't know the disaster waiting at the end of that hallway had been building for years. If there was a moment when everything truly began to tilt, it happened the year Natalie started losing. Not visibly, not all at once, just a slow unraveling she refused to name. Volleyball had always been her crown. Colleges invited her to summer clinics. Coaches praised her. Neighbors bragged about her like she was the town's pride. But junior year hit her hard. A sprained ankle, a new player on the team who outjumped her in a few disappointing games. And for Natalie, disappointment always needed somewhere to land. It landed on me. I got accepted into an arts program that spring, a selective one in the city. I remember holding the acceptance letter in my hands, my fingers trembling with something I hadn't felt in years, pride. Mom barely looked up from her coffee. Dad murmured a distracted, "That's nice, honey." But when Natalie walked in, the room froze. "She got in," Mom said like she was confessing a crime. Natalie's jaw tightened. "Into that program near the athletic center?" "Yes," I answered quietly. So now she had to invade my space too? I tried to explain that our classes would be in completely different buildings, but logic meant nothing when she felt threatened. The slap came so fast I didn't see her arm move. Just the sting, the blur, the room holding its breath. Mom didn't ask why. She didn't ask what happened. She just sighed. Natalie's under pressure.
Ella, don't provoke her. Pressure. That word became the shield my parents used to excuse everything. Every shove, every bruise, every door slammed inches from my face. Pressure was the reason for Natalie's rage, and apparently it was my fault for not absorbing it better. Micah caught me outside the next morning, a yellowing bruise blooming across my cheekbone. "This wasn't an accident," he said. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. "Ella, you need to start documenting everything. I'm serious. Pictures, dates, all of it." I told him my parents wouldn't believe me even if I showed them. "That's not who the evidence is for," he said quietly. "It's for you. For the day she finally crosses the line you can't come back from." I wanted to laugh. Natalie had crossed so many lines already, I'd lost count. But a part of me, buried deep, knew he was right. So I started writing, taking photos, hiding the journal at his house. The more I recorded, the clearer the truth became. Natalie wasn't spiraling. She was escalating. And the house felt smaller every day, like the walls were inching closer, waiting for the moment her rage needed a final place to break. The day things finally slipped out of the shadows didn't start like a disaster. It started quietly, too quietly. Natalie had been pacing the house all morning, her footsteps sharp against the hardwood. Her mood hung like a storm cloud you could smell before it broke. I stayed in my room trying to finish a digital illustration from my class showcase, headphones on, pretending the world outside my door didn't exist. But pretending has a shelf life, and mine expired that afternoon. I had stepped out to grab a glass of water when I heard something tear. Not a soft rip, a violent one. I walked back into my room and froze. Natalie was standing over my desk, breathing hard, my artwork shredded in her hands. Swirls of paper littered the floor like confetti from a party I was never invited to. "What are you doing?" My voice cracked, too soft, too small. She didn't even look guilty. "You think you get to have some big moment tomorrow? Your little art show?" she scoffed. "I'm not letting you march in there acting like you matter." I moved forward on instinct, but the look she shot me stopped me cold. Wild, unhinged, the kind of look you see right before something terrible happens. "Mom," I called out. "Dad?" They appeared irritated, not alarmed. Natalie gestured to the confetti of my work. "She started this." I stared at her, stunned. Mom rubbed her temples. "Ella, you know your sister is under a lot of pressure. Why poke at her?" Pressure. Always pressure, as if I existed solely to cushion her blows. That evening, Micah came over to help his dad move something in their garage. I stepped outside for air and he took one look at my face, a quiet, exhausted kind of heartbreak, and didn't even ask. "Show me," he said. I let him inside, and when he saw the destruction, he exhaled slowly, jaw tight. "This isn't slipping," he said. "This is escalating." I know. The words tasted metallic, heavy. Micah crouched beside the mess. "Ella, listen. You can't wait for someone else to save you. Your parents won't step in. They've proved that. You need a plan." A plan. The word felt foreign, but solid. That night, I gathered everything. My journal, the photos, the notes, the dates. Every time she shoved me, every bruise she denied, every warning my parents ignored. I locked it into a box and walked it across the yard to Micah's house, placing it in his hands like evidence from a crime I'd survived but never fully named. "Keep it here," I told him. "Ella, what are you preparing for?" The truth slipped out before I could stop it. The day she goes too far. He didn't argue. He didn't reassure me it wouldn't happen. The silence between us said more than words. Back home, the house felt different. Heavy,
humming with charged tension. Natalie's footsteps upstairs thudded with a rhythm I'd come to recognize, searching for someone to blame. And somewhere deep inside me, a quiet realization ignited. I wasn't documenting fear anymore. I was preparing for survival. Not long after, the universe answered with terrifying precision. A slammed door, a raised voice. My name spat like an accusation. And then came the moment everything shattered, literally. It happened on Thursday, late afternoon, golden lights spilling through the upstairs hallway as if the house was trying to look innocent. I remember thinking it was strangely peaceful for a moment. Too peaceful. I had just finished ironing the dress I planned to wear to the showcase. It was the first time my art would be displayed publicly, the first time anyone outside our school walls would see what I could do. I wanted that night to mean something, but Natalie couldn't stand the thought of me having anything she didn't. I heard her door slam a few minutes after the mail truck rumbled away. She must have opened another rejection letter. The air shifted, brittle and electric, and every survival instinct I had sharpened. I gathered my things, ready to retreat to the downstairs den until she cooled off. But I wasn't fast enough. Ella. My name cracked through the hallway. Her footsteps were thunder, hard, fast, decisive. I turned, heartbeat stuttering. She was already marching toward me, her face blotched with fury, the letter crushed in her hand. "You think this is funny?" "I don't know what you mean." "Of course you don't. You never do. You just float around ruining everything." I backed up a step. She matched it. Not today, please. I have to leave soon." "Oh, I know," she hissed. "Your big special night. Everyone praising you, everyone looking at you." I didn't react. Any sign of fear only fueled her. But when she grabbed my shoulder and yanked me toward her, something inside me snapped. Not resistance, not anger, just a cold, heavy understanding. She wasn't going to stop. Not now, not ever. "Let go," I said quietly. She didn't. She shoved instead. I stumbled back, hitting the wall hard. The framed family photo rattled beside me. The last Christmas we pretended to be normal. "You always take from me," she said, breath shaking. "Every time I fall short, all anyone sees is you succeeding. You make me look weak. I'm not responsible for—" "Shut up." She lunged. I dodged. She grabbed my wrist, twisting it. A sharp, burning pain shot up my arm. I cried out. That sound, my pain, sent her into a deeper frenzy. "Stop acting like a victim." "I'm not." "You are." Her face was inches from mine, twisted, unfamiliar. And then she uttered the sentence that told me everything. "You should have never been born." There are moments in life when the world pauses. Not kindly, not gently. Just long enough for you to realize you're standing at the edge of something you can't undo. This was that moment. I stepped back without thinking, desperate for distance. We were inches away from Mom's decorative glass office door. Frosted panes, geometric pattern, supposedly reinforced, but the contractor had messed up. We didn't know that then. Not until later. Natalie grabbed my other wrist, pulled me toward her, then shoved me with everything she had. Time fractured. I felt my body leave the floor, felt the backwards momentum yank the air out of my lungs, felt the glass behind me resist for a half second, just long enough for dread to bloom, before it exploded. Sound vanished into pure white roar. The world spun. Shards of glass sliced across my arms, my neck, my hair. Cold air rushed past me as I fell through the frame door, then slammed onto the hardwood floor of Mom's office. The pain was blinding,
but brief. Everything dimmed quickly, draining like someone slowly pulling a plug. Somewhere above me, Natalie screamed, oh my God, Ella, Ella, get up, get up." Her voice cracked, but not with concern, with fear, the fear of consequences. Mom's voice joined hers, high and shaking. "Call someone." "Hurry," Dad said, my name again and again, each time softer. I felt warm liquid pooling under me, slipping between the floorboards. My fingertips tingled, then went numb. My chest struggled to rise. But the moment that broke me wasn't the pain. It was hearing my sister say, "She made me angry. She always makes me angry. It wasn't my fault." The last thing I felt was a strange sense of weightlessness, like my body drifting away, then nothing. The impact put me in a coma. People think comas are quiet. Mine wasn't. Darkness has ears, and when people think you can't hear, they speak freely. In the ICU, I floated in and out of consciousness, never fully awake, never fully gone. Voices filtered through the dim haze like echoes underwater. "Natalie, they want your statement again." It was an accident. That's not what the evidence suggests. Evidence. My journal. My photos. Micah must have brought them forward. I heard Mom crying. Real, desperate crying. Crying I had never heard from her before. "She's our daughter," she repeated. "She's our daughter." Dad's voice was hollow. "We should have stopped this. We should have seen." "No, Natalie," Mom cut in sharply. "You told me she was the problem. You always said she made everything harder for me." Silence. Thick. Damning. A doctor spoke next, calm and clinical. Ella suffered severe trauma, swelling around the brain, multiple fractures. A major artery was nearly severed. If your neighbor hadn't applied pressure immediately, she wouldn't have survived the ambulance ride. That neighbor was Micah's dad, a paramedic, the only adult who had ever protected me. The days blurred. I existed in a place where time folded strangely, voices looping, fading, returning. Sometimes I heard Micah reading aloud, reminding me the world outside was still waiting. Sometimes I heard nurses whispering about the case, how unusual it was for a sibling assault to escalate this far. Sometimes I heard Natalie sobbing, not from guilt, but from fear of what would happen to her. And then one sentence cut through everything, sharp as the glass that shattered me. She might never wake up. Maybe that was what jolted something deep in my mind. Maybe it stirred the part of me that refused to die. Because one morning, weeks after I fell through that door, the darkness thinned. A flicker, a pulse, a sliver of light. And then through a fog of pain, cold air, and distant beeping monitors, I surfaced slowly, heavily, but alive. When I finally opened my eyes, everything had changed. The room was too bright, too cold, humming with machines that felt louder than my own breath. My body refused to move, but my mind, foggy, aching, began piecing together the fragments I'd heard in the dark. Mom stood in the corner, shoulders shaking. Dad hovered near the door, unsure if he belonged there. But the first person I truly saw was Micah, slumped in the chair, asleep, his head resting near my arm. His hand still loosely held mine, like he'd been afraid to let go. When he woke and saw my eyes open, he didn't speak. At first, he just exhaled, a sound that cracked in the middle. The doctors explained everything slowly, in simple pieces. The swelling, the surgeries, the 3 weeks lost to a coma. They told me healing would take time, that my memory might glitch, that my body would protest even simple movements for months. But none of that was the hardest part. The hardest part was hearing what happened while I was gone. Natalie had been charged. The evidence Micah had kept for years, my journal, the photos, the dates, the patterns, became the backbone of the case. Teachers stepped forward, neighbors, even some of Natalie's old teammates. The truth spilled everywhere, impossible to gather back up. My parents, once so determined to protect her image, now sat outside the consequences they helped create. They wanted to talk, to apologize, to explain, but healing, I realized, wasn't about fixing them. It was about choosing myself. So when the social worker asked where I wanted to live during recovery, I didn't hesitate. I said, I want to stay with my aunt. And for the first time in my life, the choice was truly mine. Moving in with my aunt felt like stepping into air. I could finally breathe. Recovery was slow, sometimes painful, but every day I felt a little more like myself and a little further from the girl who stayed quiet to keep the peace. I'm studying art therapy now, helping teens who carry the kind of scars no one sees. Justice didn't erase what happened, but it opened the door to something better. If you've ever had to rebuild after being broken, share your story below and subscribe for the next.